Okay, in this video I'm just going to briefly touch on the exhaust gas recirculation maps and whether or not they might want remapping. I'm using my Excel sheet for the Leon 1.9 PD TDI edc16 again. Now I'm not going to go through possible changes to the EGR maps. I'll talk about those at a later date, I suspect. But I just want to run through a few obvious pointers. We've got one map there, another one there, and another one there. And I've made a note to myself on the side here. But basically I don't really need to check that note to spot the obvious, which is that if we look at the values that are in here, once we get to the areas where there would be a fair increase in performance during a remap, in other words, up this end of the map, so well above 1500, so above this line, and probably well above 38 milligrams, so over here somewhere. So in other words, once we get over into this corner where a lot of the power gains are going to be made from remapping, the EGR isn't functioning. So to change this EGR map in order to affect performance would be relatively pointless, in the sense that we are probably going to want performance over here, and that is off the map. Now there might be occasions when we would just like to have a little bit more air in these areas, because if we imagine that this runs to 5,000 and this one runs up to 60 or 70, so the map is now more this sort of shape, so rather than there it's more that sort of shape, and if we imagine that we're accelerating, so we're getting a sort of a diagonal run across here, we might want to have a little bit more air here and a little bit less exhaust gases being recirculated, just to see if we can put a slight edge on the performance by doing that. Now lots of people simply say to hell with the EGR and close it completely. That's obviously an option, so we've got various options here. We could do away with it completely and then sort out any fault codes that arise. We could close it by remapping it to close it, but we will probably still get fault codes, and we could remap some of the figures to just give us more fresh air and leave it still functional, but that will probably give us fault codes as well, unless we go and look at some of the other EGR related maps. This last option of actually remapping the EGR map to give us a little bit less EGR and a little bit more fresh air, as it were, is perhaps the hardest, because you would have to alter these values, and you would also have to go and find other maps and other single values to stop fault codes and errors being flagged as a result of the changes that you'd made. So this might well be the best option, to change the map just to allow more air when you want it, but it may also be the most difficult to implement. Now I'm not going to go into that at the moment, because obviously all I'm interested in at the moment is going through the basic remapping maps to look at how we might tune this ECU file. But at a later date I will probably come back and explain in more detail what changes you can make to EGR maps, if in fact you want to make changes to the maps. You don't just want to leave them as they are stock. But for the moment I'm going to leave this one stock, so I'll stop there for now.